This is a special episode of Dolly Diaries, which is my doll vlog series. I decided to focus everything in this video on what I do with dolls that I already have without spending any money, because I think a lot of doll collecting can seem like it's about just getting new dolls and stuff for them, and of course that is a lot of fun. I am guilty as charged. I show hauls on my channel. I love to thrift. I like to get things on sale. Of course that is a very exciting part of collecting, but that's not always an option, especially in today's economy. It's sometimes hard to get what you need, let alone stuff that you don't, like dolls. And it's also not always sustainable to constantly be buying stuff. It's a good way to get burnt out and kind of not appreciate what you have. But I always, whether or not I'm showing it on my channel, part of why I don't mind buying dolls is because I'm always doing things with them. I love taking photos of them and filming videos with them and putting them on display and maintaining them, making them things. And I'm sure if you've watched a lot of my regular vlogs or my dolly transformations videos, old dolls are always kind of getting slipped in there because I'm just always doing things. And honestly, I don't film like the majority of stuff that I do with my dolls because I'm just kind of in that I want to get it done, I want to focus on just enjoying it sort of vibe. So I don't actually always pull out my camera, which can be a problem when you're trying to film a vlog. So I came up with the idea to film a vlog dedicated just to things that I was already going to do, been wanting to do, has been on my to-do list for a while. All about just things that I did with my old dolls that didn't like involve me having bought anything new. I started filming this at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of 2025, and at that time we were finishing up my Flickr guide project, which if you don't know for some reason, I have a Flickr that is where this YouTube stemmed from, and it catalogs all the dolls, accessories, play sets, etc. in my collection in kind of like an encyclopedia format. And I also have a lot of fun stuff on there. But we did a huge update where we replaced all of the pictures that were like for the guide, the encyclopedia, and the last couple albums that we had left at the end of the year-long project were some American Girl albums. So it's kind of a little heavy on stuff we were doing with American Girls because I had some prep work I wanted to do for some of my dolls before we took their photos, like cleaning and making some things. So that's why it's a little bit American Girl centered. And I ended up getting sick at the beginning of the year twice, like within a month span, because it was just like a lot of illness going around this past year. So I ended up kind of not totally forgetting about this project, but I had other things to do. And then as time went on, it kind of got a little bit weird because there'd be things that I wanted to do with dolls I technically already had, but they were new from when I started the video. So you can see where it got a little confusing. So most of this was filmed at the beginning of the year. There are a few more recent clips that I was going to put in my last regular episode of Dolly Diaries, but I decided just to like insert them here. So that is why, if you like this kind of vlog where it's all about like just different things that I'm doing with dolls I already have without spending any kind of money, I can definitely do more of these, because like, yes, I show hauls and stuff, but there's so much that I do. Like, most of what I'm doing with my dolls is what I'm doing like with my old dolls, not actually with my new dolls. It's just a lot of the same kinds of repetitive things, ergo I don't film it. But if you like this, I can definitely do another one, and just know that you don't need to always be buying things, buying dolls, or buying things for your dolls in order to have fun with collecting. You can enjoy the dolls you already have, and that can be great, because there have been periods of time for me where buying dolls was just not an option, and I still found like lots of fun in the hobby. So there are like a lot of crafts and things too, things that would normally end up in my Dolly Designs series. So if you're not into that, I'm sorry, but that's just one of the ways I express myself through my doll collection. Hope you enjoy. And some of the things that I made and all of the dolls that I show and all of that, they are pictured on my Flickr. You shouldn't, in theory, need a Flickr to view my photos, but I know that there's been some issues for people recently It's always linked below. And without further ado, let's get into the vlog. In early January, Colleen and I were planning on finishing our Flickr retake project by mid-February. We actually finished it early. We finished it like late January. But the American Girl dolls were the ones that were left in terms of like retaking their albums, and I decided that before I tackled Samantha Nelly, that album, I wanted to redo two of my Samantha dolls' hair. So we had, the one that I'm doing right here in this clip is Luca. She's my first Samantha I ever had that I got for my birthday in 1998. And I had boil washed her hair completely straight way back in the day and then added my own curls. And I was just kind of annoyed with like the little marks, the bands, the perm rods left on her hair. So I decided that I would just start from scratch. And then there's Beth in here, which if you've been watching my channel since 2018, you might remember that I got her at the Salvation Army for $1 or $2. And I had boil washed her hair completely straight and left it like that. And it looked cute, like her hair is actually in very wonderful condition, but I just felt like she was missing something. So I wanted to add some wave into her hair. And I always start, even though they've been in my cabinet like this whole time, since it had been quite a few years since I had initially washed them and styled their hair, I decided it would only be appropriate to like wash their hair, condition it, give it a comb through, and then see where that put me. I didn't boil wash them because I decided to use my flat iron to add in some texture instead, and their hair had already been boil washed once, so it's not like they had frizzy bits or anything, especially like with Beth, and there literally would have been no point in boil washing her. Her hair was pinned straight as it was. So that's what I'm doing here. So my plan had originally been that I was going to boil wash Luca's hair totally straight so I had a fresh canvas to work with. And then I was going to put rollers back in her hair. But I was like, that seems like a lot of work. And usually when I put the rollers in, there's a lot of fiddling after with like using my flat iron to get some kinks out or having to recurl a certain section. I'm very particular when it comes to curling my doll's hair. And if you're wondering why when I like boil wash doll's hair straight, whether it's American Girl or like a fashion doll like Barbie, Bratz, etc., why I don't usually put the curl back in, I have my reasons. So I have OCD tendencies, and perfectionism is something I've struggled with since I was a little kid, and doll hair can sometimes be an enormous trigger for me. And back when I started restoring dolls, I guess you could say, like fixing them up as an adult collector when I was 19, and I learned about boil washing and setting curls with the boil wash water, I would always have like all my Disney dolls done to the nines, like my Megara from Hercules. I would spend so much time curling their hair, and then of course because it was Connecthlon, it would get prone to being like frizzy and fluffy and fly away. And when I would be dusting them on display, I would find that I would always constantly have to be redoing the curls altogether because they wouldn't look perfect anymore. And it was just kind of this cycle of like me spending a lot of time to be very unsatisfied with the results, and it caused a lot of like stress and legit anxiety, which sounds ridiculous, but like anxiety is not it's not sensible. I mean, if you could just rationalize it away, we wouldn't have it, now would we? So I ended up deciding for my own like sanity and mental well-being that I would just boil wash my Megara dolls straight, for instance, and leave them like that. And let me tell you, it's been life-changing. Now when I dust them and regularly maintain those displays, or my sister has them out for little photos she takes, I don't have to sit and like worry about their curls getting messed up. So that's kind of why I got into that habit, because it just was so much better for me. And that was one of the reasons why I like avoided Luca's hair for so long, because the little bands the perm rods left were so like, oh, it drove me crazy. Like it actually, like I would feel heart palpitations when looking at it, like, oh, her hair, it's so messy looking. Like I would get genuinely stressed out about it, which is ridiculous. And so the way I decided to tackle it was, instead of removing it and starting from scratch, I just took my flat iron and worked out those kinks and used the ends, like curled up the ends, and I really liked the look of it. So I ended up doing that on Bethan. She didn't have any kink marks in her hair, but I just flipped the ends up. And this is something I've found works really well when I'm flat ironing dolls, if I don't want to like make the hair pin straight, but I am trying to smooth out frizz or a kink. Like when I did my Lainey doll, her hair for the curl tutorial, I went back in with the flat iron and just got rid of a few of those banding marks, and that way it looks the way I want it to look, but I don't have to like redo everything. And I really ended up liking how this looked on Bethan, because while her hair isn't as like wavy as it was originally, it's a lot easier to deal with. Like my 2004 Samantha, I boil washed her hair years ago too, and her hair, it just didn't take out all the texture because the water wasn't super hot, so she still has like curled ends, so I can flip them under or flip them up depending on my mood. And I think that it's just a lot more manageable than having those like really tight short waves. So it looked really nice. It gave Bethan a little bit of extra something, made her look a little bit spiffier in the pictures we retook. And also, like, me and Bethan, we have an interesting relationship, because I got her at the start of 2018, and I was like insanely depressed when I got her. And I just remember feeling not much motivation to like clean her up after I got her. And that was one of the reasons why I never curled her hair, was because I was like, yeah, trying to do that right now would just drive me crazy and make me stressed out, and I'd be unhappy with the results. So I just felt like this whole experience of redoing Bethan's hair was like a bonding moment for us, and it's kind of like me taking back some of that negative stuff I went through when I got this doll. Because you can really connect like dolls with times in your life, for better or for worse. And I was so excited to have found her because she looked so much like Luca, but like was only $1 or $2. And you know, that struggle I was going through took away that moment. So I was happy to do this for her. And after I flat ironed Luca and Bethan's hair, I decided to wash their bodies and stuffing. I had specifically not done this with Bethan back in the day, because I think I was planning on using her for my restring tutorial, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll just wash everything when I get to that. But again, I was really depressed at that time, and it never ended up coming to fruition. So she just had a dirty body all of these years, which is disturbing, and normally that would really bother me, but again, I was really depressed, so it didn't bother me like it would have, and I just sort of forgot over time and accepted that. She actually didn't need to be restrung. Her limbs were pretty tight, so I put her stuffing in this floral pillowcase, and then Luca's went in the Harry Potter pillowcase. It's nice that the pillowcases have designs on them, because when I'm washing multiple batches of stuffing for American Girls, I can remember like whose stuffing was in which bag. And I actually borrowed some of Luca's stuffing for Bethan, because she's overstuffed, and when I had Bethan packed back down with all of her stuffing when it was dry, I realized that she had a little bit of like empty space in her torso, so I just borrowed some of Luca's, and it worked out wonderfully. And I soaked their torsos in some laundry detergent and water, because I obviously couldn't put their torsos in the washing machine because they have plastic components that are like attached. But I'm glad that I was able to clean them. And Luca was just old. I'm sure I washed her body before, but it never hurts. She was very played with my entire childhood. My sister and I bag almost all of our doll clothes, but for quite a few years, like most of the time we've been collecting as adults, we hung a lot of our American Girl clothes in our childhood wooden wardrobes, and they would be outfits that like only had a hairband or didn't have any accessories. But it just, when we decided to start bagging the American Girl shoes and like jewelry with the clothes, which made retaking their pictures so much easier for Flickr, I decided as we were taking those pictures, maybe we should just bag everything in the wardrobes and use those wardrobes just for Cabbage Patch clothes and like random off-brand things that don't need to be bagged. And this is what I was doing here on a random day. I literally just decided to bag them by myself, and then I'd make all the labels, and that way when we would be photographing some of those albums we had left over, it would be easier. I wouldn't have to get like Elizabeth's cloak out of the wardrobe as an afterthought. And I recorded a little footage of me writing the labels. I've been using Sharpie pens, well, Sharpies, they're like the thin, fine point Sharpies, for writing labels lately, because that way any moisture in the air won't make them bleed, which sometimes happens with the felt tip pens I use, which are water-based. So I just wrote, like I'd go in my organizer on Flickr and write down the info for each label rather than having to go manually through all of the albums. That's one of the nice things about having my Flickr and documenting my whole collection, is it's so much easier to reference things for myself. I use my Flickr guide for myself, probably more than other people do. Yeah, and so for American Girl labels, they don't have like box dates because their things are released for large chunks of time. So that's why you can see there's like a start and an end date on these, like 2004 to 2006, 1986 to 2013, you know, different dates. Just to have like a frame of reference of when things retired and whatnot. And you can see that like these are Kirsten's clothes that I'm labeling here. So one of the first dolls I ever restrung was Luca. I had to do her arms. She had like, or legs, sorry. She always had weird legs, and my dad had strung them incorrectly. But I was really new to doing it way back in the day, so it's not that the cord itself was worn out. It was actually that I hadn't clamped down the washers in the right place. So what I'm doing here is pulling up where I want the tension to be and putting a zip tie, because I can't just like remove the bungee cord and put it back in. I'd have to cut it and put a new one in, and I didn't want to waste it. And this worked really well. It tightened up that space, and her limbs could hold poses better. And this is what I meant about soaking their bodies in laundry detergent. At first I thought I was going to have to put a ribbon on Bethan's body so I knew which was which, because they're both like mid-90s Pleasant Company bodies. However, then I remembered that Luca had restrung her legs, so it would be really easy just to look in the body and see the bungee cords I used. So I ended up removing this ribbon after, but that's something you can do if you don't want to like mix up bodies while you're cleaning them, is put a ribbon or an elastic on one. So this is my childhood Felicity, who I got for Christmas in 1998. She was my only Felicity / Elizabeth doll that didn't have pierced ears. Now that's because Elizabeth came with pierced ears, and originally I just made earrings for all of Felicity's outfits so that Elizabeth could wear the earrings when she was borrowing Felicity's clothes. But then I ended up with two other Felicity dolls, Emerald and Peridot. I got Emerald at a thrift store back in 2021, and then I got Peridot. She was given to me like a year later in 2022, around November-ish. So I had pierced their ears instinctively, like, oh, well, I already have earrings for all of Felicity's clothes because of Elizabeth, and they can wear Elizabeth's clothes. And I just never did Felicity, who is my childhood doll, because
she's Pleasant Company, so you can absolutely pierce their ears. I have several Pleasant Company dolls that I pierce their ears. It's just you have to kind of work with the drill a little differently because they have like bouncier plastic. It's kind of more like rubbery feeling, and it makes it a little more annoying putting the studs in and out of the ears. But my sister and I remembered, well, if we're redoing the album for Flickr and we're reshooting all of the earring photos at the same time, and Felicity is modeling a bunch of the outfits, she won't have the earrings. So either she has to get pierced ears so we can take the pictures while she's modeling the outfits, or someone else is going to have to model the outfit to model the earrings separately. And that would just be a lot of pointless work. So I was like, all right, Felicity, I will pierce your ears, and she looks really cute with them. And these butterfly clips I was just using to hold some of her hair out of the way so I wouldn't accidentally get it in the drill. They are kind of more annoying to pull out of her ears than Emerald, Peridot, or Elizabeth, but that's to be expected because, again, she has the older plastic. So these next few clips are all me making earrings for my sister's historical character Rebecca doll, the American Girl. These weren't new outfits, these were all old outfits, but we had decided to pierce Rebecca's ears right before we retook all of the pictures in her album because, if you're not aware, we updated all of my Flickr guide photos in 2024. All the many thousands of them, and while we were doing that I also updated like all the handmade accessory photos as well, and it just seemed like a good time to make Rebecca earrings because we could photograph them with the outfits at the same time. This was for her lace dress. The little like lacy loops were from Walmart. I originally bought them for my second Tenny doll named Emma, who was a gift, but the shade of pink wasn't quite right. And I thought, well, it's Rebecca's lace dress. What could be better than a lace charm? And I also paired it with these pearlescent teardrop earrings because the color matched and it had like that overall fancy guide. It was pretty simple construction, and it didn't take me long at all to come up with this idea. Because I was doing so much on the day that I took pictures of these earrings, I didn't show a video of them all. Originally, I made these earrings for Rebecca's satin pajamas, but as I was pulling out all of the little beads, I was like, actually, these would go so much better with her Be Forever Meat outfit. It's kind of hard to see because of how I had my camera set up, but I had these, they look like little bugs with purple gems in the middle. I've used them many times on fashion dolls like Genie Magic. I think Jade has them, and a few of my other Bratz dolls. I have some Barbies with them. This was from a deconstructed necklace that belonged to my grandmother. She had a lot of like gaudy costume jewelry that was perfect for repurposing for dolls. And despite the fact that I've been using these since 2012 for earrings, I still have several of these charms left. And as soon as I saw them, the little like gem in the middle reminded me of Rebecca's necklace that sold with her meat accessory set, and I thought that was just like the perfect pairing. And I did add these little additional purple crystals above that just to add a little extra bling. Those were from Walmart. I think the dollar baggies they used to have, which sadly they don't do anymore. So depressing. Walmart used to have such cheap supplies. But I hope you can tell through some of these pictures why I chose the designs. Like this necklace matches the earrings. So these were the charms that inspired Colleen to ask me to make her jewelry for Rebecca. Well, earrings, because I already made Rebecca handmade accessories for her other clothes. But these are Star of David charms that came from Amazon Vine, which I get stuff in exchange for free in exchange for leaving a review, and I'm very picky about what I choose. But jewelry stuff is great to find on here, and these were enamel charms. So I actually had to buy my own set of these charms after the free ones came because not all of them had mates. such as the Star of David charms, and I knew I mostly use charms for earrings, sometimes necklaces, but mostly earrings, so I wanted to be able to like have the option to use all of them as earrings, and it was so worth the money. They're really nice quality. I think there was like 250 charms or something for like $10, I forget, but Colleen requested that I make these to go with her original like classic meet outfit, the like maroon colored dress, and that's what I was doing here. I paired them with little black crystals and some gold seed beads, which I've had all of those for a really long time, since probably circa 2012. The seed beads were some of my very first jewelry making supplies. But what doll could be more perfect for these Star of David charms than Rebecca Rubin, who is Jewish? And I tried to keep them pretty classy because she has a hat that she wears with this outfit too. I think Colleen chose the perfect outfit for these Star of David charms. They look awesome with the dress and the hat. I tried not to be too gaudy with Rebecca's earrings because she is a historical character and not like from a mod groovy era like Julie, but I couldn't help myself with these pom-poms. I made them to go with her velvety winter coat that came out with her Be Forever collection, and I thought that it would match the white fur trim on her coat and hat. I got these pom-poms through Amazon Vine, so for free in exchange for review. They're really nice quality. They're like plastic balls with flocking, and they have loops attached to them in gold. So they're much nicer than the cheapy ones I got at Michael's from the kids section, which I still love. And of course I added bright blue crystals to match the blue velvet of the coat itself. And I know these earrings have pom-poms, but I think they go really well with the fur on the coat, as you can see here. These earrings were made to go with Rebecca's movie dress, so the original movie-themed outfit that came out with her collection back in 2009. It was kind of like for her birthday story, if I'm not mistaken. These really light pink flower enamel charms are from that same set I mentioned that I got through Amazon Vine, and I did buy a second set so I could pair them. As you can see, there are a lot of these charms I used for Rebecca's earrings. I had gotten them not long before I decided to pierce Rebecca's ears, so she kind of got lucky because I really wanted to use them. Anytime I get new jewelry supplies, I feel really inspired by them and I want to like use them. It's kind of like if I get new resin molds, I'm itching to like make stuff. So I also added some light pink beads that were from Walmart's dollar baggie section and some gold ones that came out of this case here, this like little jewelry kit, which I bought at Walmart I think around 2015, but it had a bunch of empty compartments in the middle where the label was. How sneaky, right? To make you think there were more beads in it than there were. So I just filled it with like those empty compartments with my own gold beads, so I'm not entirely sure which ones I used for these earrings. They might have been from like the dollar baggies at Walmart that I just added to this kit. I really like how these earrings ended up looking with the choker that was sold with this dress, and that's why I used gold hardware. These were for Rebecca's seashore set, which is a limited edition outfit. It's a bathing suit. I know you don't wear earrings when you go swimming, but my dolls, of course, do because they're not actually swimming. I had these seashells with pearls from that Amazon kit of beads, and I just thought they were so gorgeous and perfect to use, but I wanted to tie in the bluish purple shade of Rebecca's swimsuit, and I didn't have like anything in that color except these like plastic hoops, which I got from Walmart's dollar baggie section. These are awesome. They work for fashion dolls too, and they were like the exact shade of Rebecca's swimsuit and just added a pop of color without being too much, because again, I wanted to keep her earrings classy. Well, for me, I mean, I like gaudy and tacky earrings for my dolls, so it can be hard to restrain myself. And this is what I meant about it being a very specific shade of like a purplish blue, which these charms match exactly. These earrings I made to go with Rebecca's original pajamas, the ones that came out with her collection back in 2009. You can see this is where I started making like a tester earring off camera, just because I like to sort of have an idea of what I'm doing before I just go right into it, and if I'm filming clips, it's usually easier for me to do this. So once again, these little flower charms are from that Amazon kit. I wasn't joking when I said I really went hard with using them. And all of these blue beads that came out of the tube are some of my very first jewelry supplies from 2012. I bought a bunch of these little tubes of different sized beads, and they take a long time to use for tiny scale doll jewelry. So these earrings match the pajamas themselves and also the robe that goes over them. These earrings were for Rebecca's movie premiere dress, which Colleen got in 2019 with her doll. I know, some of the names of the outfits are so similar, but they're different. I had these carriage charms from that Amazon kit, and I love them. They look like Cinderella's carriage, and there's another color of them too. But these were the perfect pinky tone for that outfit of Rebecca's, and I just could not help myself. I absolutely had to use them, and I thought, you know what, this is for a movie premiere. It's supposed to be dramatic. I think I can make it work. Does it work? I think so, and this dress had a lot of tones of orange too, so I used smaller beads to tie that in. And even though these carriage charms were kind of a risk, I think they worked wonderfully with this dress. These were some of Colleen's favorite pairs that I made for her Be Forever Hanukkah dress. Rebecca has had like 3 different Hanukkah dresses produced over the years, so this is the newest one that came out in 2019. It's this really beautiful pale blue with lace and white. It's very delicate looking, so I really wanted to keep that in mind, and I didn't want to make overwhelming earrings, but there are these tiny little heart keys, the enamel pins from that Amazon kit. They had some white on the hearts, and I thought these would be perfect. They're dainty, but they're like really unique and pretty, and if I add some little fake pearls from the Dollar Tree and some light blue beads, it'll tie in the blue from the dress, and I really do like the way these turned out. They're dainty, but they do make a statement. These are Colleen's favorite earrings, as I mentioned before, and I think they fit the really dainty vibe of this beautiful Hanukkah dress. These were made to go with Rebecca's school outfit, which I had made a bunch of stuff for, like a necklace and a hair bow, because this was a surprise present for Colleen for Christmas 2023 that I picked out off of eBay. Some of these outfits that I made earrings for are. But I had made her a kitty charm necklace, and I didn't have any kitties that like from this Amazon set that would work, but there are these little hearts with some kind of like leafy thing above it that kind of reminded me of the leafy things around the cats that I had previously used for the necklace. So I just had to use these, and I did little pearls from probably the Dollar Tree. I have a bunch of fake pearls from all different kinds of things, and then black seed beads that I've had forever, because this outfit has like a black and white color scheme with a pop of blue sweater, but I didn't incorporate any blue into the earrings. I'm glad I stuck to black and white with these earrings instead of adding blue. I like the finished product a lot. These earrings were for Rebecca's original winter coat that came out with her collection in 2009. It's black and furry. So I originally wanted to do pom-poms because I love pom-poms, but sadly I did not have any black pom-poms. And so I was looking through my charms and I found these music notes. They're the enameled ones from Amazon. They're black. They're flipped over in this clip, but they are black. And I thought, well, music is kind of like related to performing, which is kind of related to acting. When else am I really going to use them? They're way too big to use on like even a Bratz doll. They're huge. So I decided to pair those with some black crystals that I had from Walmart's dollar section. And they're like big enough to be seen under her hat and against the puffy jacket, but they're not like too obtuse, at least I don't think so. They are like kind of pushing it. They're not the classiest pair of earrings I made, but I was really excited to get to use these charms for Rebecca's coat. Are these finished earrings quite large? Yes, they are, but I really do like how they look with the coat and the hat. And these were the earrings I ended up making for her satin pajamas because, as I mentioned earlier, the original pair that I made ended up going to her Be Forever Meet outfit. There are these adorable, like, light pink bow enamel charms from Amazon that were the perfect shade, and I added some purple and pink crystals because these pajamas have, like, kind of a pinkyish color with purple buttons and details, so I wanted to incorporate those colors. And I know you don't wear earrings to bed, but my dolls do because they're stylish like that. I'm really glad I used the other earrings for the meet outfit because these are so charming with these satin PJs. Speaking of earrings for bed, these were the ones I made to go with Rebecca's Be Forever nightie. I had a hard time coming up with an idea for this because it's like a very delicate nightgown. It kind of reminds me of Samantha's original nightgown. It's pretty simple, a little bit lacy, has some pink bows on it. But I saw these enamel cloud charms, you guessed it, from that Amazon Vine set. And I thought, well, when else am I going to use clouds? That's perfect for, like, Betty Bye, right? And so then I paired it with these larger pink beads that were the exact color of the ribbons. The little ribbons on the nightgown were a really specific shade of pink, kind of like a slightly purplish, really light pink, and these were really all I had that matched well because I didn't want anything too bright pink that would be obnoxious. And I paired them with little white beads that I've had forever from Walmart. And I actually really like the way these turned out. Although you do not wear earrings to bed, I still think they're cute. Although I was stuck on what to make for these earrings, I really like how these look with the nightgown. What I showed in the previous clips was me making a very rudimentary pattern out of a scrap piece of paper. It was actually the backside of our Christmas skit lines that I saved for doing stuff like this. The fabric is from an Amazon Vine dress kit that was a disaster. I have a whole video about that on my channel from last year. And it's very stretchy, so I didn't need to accommodate closures, although I did bring my snaps out just in case. And I roughly measured Jasmine, who I got at the Salvation Army in 2017. If you are familiar with my Hopscotch Hill Gwendol, I got her that same day at the Salvation Army. And she was wearing Classics Jasmine pants, but when we were going through that container in storage and reorganizing, I was like, no, Jasmine needs a handmade skirt. I personally really like making my own, like, tutus and skirts for these cheapy dolls that have the molded bodices. Like, adding my handmade accessories to them makes them feel, I don't know, like, you can really see the potential in them, and they seem less cheap, and I don't know, it's just like a way to give them a little extra love because the companies that make them were cheap and skimped out on the quality. So I decided to get fancy and add, like, a sheer layer over top the blue, which I've never done this before, and I'm not sure if I did it right, but I cut out a panel just so it would be on the front, which I know is kind of cheap, but I didn't have enough to do it on the back too, and I, like, layered it into the blue pieces that I was stitching together, and it worked. It looked like a factory dress would, although I probably did it the wrong way. And I am hand sewing everything because I'm not too great with using my machine, and with smaller scale things like this, I have an easier time hand sewing. I have more control, even though I do tend to mess up. I'm no master sewer or anything, but I like doing it. It's pretty relaxing. And this fabric wasn't too hard to work with. I think because of its stretch, it would have been difficult to do on the machine. And it's also the kind of fabric that doesn't need to be hemmed. It's very similar to like what they use presently on Disney dolls, whether they're Disney Store or Mattel or Hasbro, where they kind of have the raw cut fabric, but it's that material that's weighty enough not to fray. So I didn't have to hem, which saved me some time. I really don't like hemming, but sometimes you have to, otherwise it looks really messy. And this was just a lot of clips of me sewing it. It took me a while. I was trying to be neat about it and not rush and be messy. I didn't want to leave the waistband looking kind of raw at the top, so I had planned from the beginning to use this piece of ribbon, and I would sew it just to the front and then tie it in a bow in the back. So this ribbon here is actually from an LOL Surprise Dolls box, one of the, were they like present surprise, where they came in a cardboard box with a bow on top, like a gift box. And I have several of these. I've used them for like calling American Girl Courtney dolls hair accessories. They make their way around. I always save like anything from packaging that I think could be recycled for crafting. And because I craft regularly, it's not like it just becomes a hoard when I'm pointlessly saving like cardboard toilet paper rolls or something I'm never going to use. But I hand sewed this down to the front of the dress, and I'm going to be adding some flowers in a minute, which will kind of disguise my stitches. And I thought also by having it tied in the back, it would kind of give it a slightly snugger fit, so I could kind of adjust where it sat on Jasmine, because she has one of those molded bodices that has like a defined ridge that separates her like lower torso from her butt, I guess you could say, and it can make like the fit of clothes a little awkward. So I thought this ribbon kind of helped deal with that issue. And for the finishing touch, I decided to add these teal fabric roses. These are the same ones that I used on her handmade headband, which I designed for this doll when I got her back in 2017. These flowers were actually from my friend's Grammy, who passed away in 2016. My friend Lisa and her mom brought over all of like Grammy's art supplies and any of her like doll related stuff she had, because you know, obviously I craft and I collect dolls, and these were the last of those green flowers. They actually came on like little wires that were wrapped in some kind of paper, like little mini bouquets. So I just cut off the like flower part so I could sew them. They're not like, they weren't separately made flowers like the ones I get at Walmart that I like to use for accessorizing handmade stuff, that it's like a whole little separate piece that's all sewn together. So I did have to be mindful when stitching these down to make sure the shape of the roses didn't get messed up and that they were secured with some of the thread. So this added a few things to the outfit, a little extra detail. It hid the stitching from the ribbon I added, and it tied into the handmade headband, so I thought it worked out really well.
So this is Jasmine with her new skirt. So she did look cute with the classic pants, but I just figured when we were going through a container and I found her, why not make her something? So these pieces of fabric, the outer layer and then the like under layer, are both from an Amazon dress kit that was a total disaster. The ribbon that I did tie, like I sewed it to the front, but I left it so you could tie it in the back. That is from an LOL box. It was like the handle of the box. And then these little roses I got from my friend, when her grandmother passed away in 2016, her and her mom brought over a bunch of craft supplies and stuff, and that's what I used on the headband I made many years ago. So I used what I had left to kind of tie in the headband to the skirt. Something I like to do that does not require purchasing anything new is to research old stuff that I have not identified yet in my collection. It's kind of all over the desk right now, but this bag is full of all different kinds of doll clothes I haven't identified. Not all of them are Barbie. Some of them are like off-brand and I might not ever know what they are, but I was working with this, that's why it looks like that. But especially before flea market season every year, when I potentially could get more clothes that will need identifying, I like to take a crack at all of my old clothes and kind of go through different websites, look on eBay, you know, type in different things. And I've identified 20 pieces in the past few days, which there have been times where I worked for maybe like a week or two and managed to identify like 40 or 50 pieces. So there's just a lot of different things from a lot of like different years. I did try to focus on the like 2000s and like the 2010s because I had a lot of newer Barbie clothes, like that shirt for instance, but I did identify some 90s things and early 2000s, and who knows, I might identify more. And as I've been going, I've been writing the labels. I have notes on my whiteboard here for like Flickr, because they're all going to get photographed and uploaded to my Flickr guide. I also have some overflow on here. And also sometimes I catch silly mistakes, like this skirt goes to a fashion gift set that I already have pieces to. I don't know if I got it after the fact, and that's why I didn't realize it went to that set. And then the same with this purple dress and this blue shirt. Now I know for a fact that I got these like years after the hoodie from that fashion gift set, so that's why I didn't realize what it went to. And then some things like this pink dress that I've had for years, I finally identified, so I'm very excited. I find it really exciting to like identify clothes and know what they go to, and these little generic simple pieces can be a real pain if you don't have any of the other pieces that go to them. So I have to pay a lot of attention to like the stitching, and if they have tags, making sure that the tags and enclosures align with the time frame of the outfit that I'm researching. So that's something you can always do, is research old dolls, research old outfits or play sets, things that you already have, and that way, I mean, if you care, not everybody cares, you can obviously use your doll stuff without knowing what it is, but I'm a curious person, and as a kid I had a lot of secondhand stuff, and there's still this thrill as an adult collector in like being able to know what it all goes to. And although I'll never have every little piece in my collection identified, it's nice to like go through and work on this. And I do work on it periodically throughout the year, especially during flea market season. When I'm researching new clothes, I'll keep my eye out for old clothes, and I'll usually identify a couple old pieces too. Or like if I'm browsing on Flickr, a few weeks back I identified 3 pieces just from like what popped up in my feed. That's something fun you can do. I think it's fun anyways. And I do have a video called How I Inventory and Identify Dolls. It's on here on YouTube, and then the like thumbnail picture is on Flickr. If you go to that, you can check the description of the photo and the video, and I have all the links to all the websites that I regularly use. And even though that video is from 2016, I like just updated that again today in 2025, so I make sure the links work. I add new websites that I find, because there's so many more resources than when I started collecting back in 2011. So many people have like guides and all of that now, whereas before I'd have to just scroll on eBay for like hundreds of pages to identify things. So you can always check that out if you want to know like what resources I like to use. And also there's my Flickr, which if you're interested in what I've identified, I have thousands and thousands of articles of clothes and thousands of dolls. I know my channel is called 1,000 Splendid Dolls, but I have close to 5,000 dolls in my collection, so there's a lot you can use from my collection to identify things in your collection.
Here I am making replacement straps for a beach party jade doll that I've had since 2011. My dad got me this doll on a Craigslist lot as like a Christmas gift that year, and her bathing suit straps were always like broken, and for some reason it had never occurred to me back in the day to just replace them, and I happened to have this embroidery floss that was the perfect color match, so I just cut it to size, knotted one of the ends on each strap, and attached it. To help the straps stay together and not kind of fray, I took some glue. It's not actually Mod Podge, it's Elmer's glue I put in this container, and I just rolled my fingers over the straps with the glue. It's water soluble, so if I were to wash this top, it might break it down, but that's okay. It got the job done that I needed it to. So I'm just letting the glue dry on these straps, and I mean, they're not like super sticky or anything. You can see there will be like plenty to tie around Jade now, and they're secured really well. Like, I kept tugging at them while I was sewing to make sure that like I wouldn't accidentally pull them out where they were sewn in when I like dressed her and undressed her in the future. The only thing is, like, if I have to wash this in the future, like during a dust, like a deep clean on my displays, some of the Mod Podge might rinse out, but that's not like the end of the world. I can always add more. But I'm so glad I've had her for so many years, and now her boobs won't be popping out. I hope you enjoyed this kind of special edition of Dolly Diaries. If you're interested in seeing another episode similar to this, I can definitely do one. I have loads of things on my to-do list. And like I said at the start, if you're interested in seeing any of these dolls or crafts featured in this video, you can check out pictures of them on my Flickr and all of the other stuff. I update Flickr a lot more often and more consistently than YouTube, so if I'm ever like away from YouTube for a while, or you're wondering like what we've been up to, you can always see stuff on my Flickr. And until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.